Today I'm going to see if I can fit a tonneau cover from the 2019 to 2023 Ford Ranger onto my 2024 Ford Ranger and see what kind of modifications are required. Okay, task complete. The bed is about a ½ inch wider, almost the exact same length, and the biggest difference is the thickness of the bed rails. So on the older generation, the 19 to 23, it's only like 3/4 of an inch. On this one, it's like 2 1/4 up at the front here and about 2 in the back. So it gets a little bit bigger as it goes forward. But I think I'm going to be able to get around that. If I have to make my own mounts, I will do that. I managed to get this tonneau cover on Facebook Marketplace for $200. And this is like a $1,500 tonneau cover. This is the retractable. This is from Ford, but it's actually a Retrax with just the Ford sticker on it. So I'm pretty excited about it. I think I'm going to be able to make it work. This does have the T-slots in it. I was going to try to find a tonneau cover that fit into the stake holes, but I think with this, I'll be able to put it in there. I already put the brackets for the load box reinforcement, so this should be good. I am going to have to move my lights that I have in the bed, and then I'm going to make this thing fit. So we'll see how that goes. So surprisingly, this tonneau cover is pretty light, so it's not too hard to maneuver around. Yep, so the tie downs in the front are going to have to come out. I'm just going nice and slow. The first turn isn't too bad. It's starting to get tighter now, which is weird. But I don't want to lock these threads out by heating it up or anything, so I'm just going to take my time. All right, so I got the front tie down hooks out because they were hitting the canister. And the main reason I'm doing this is because, yes, I paid $60,000 for this truck, but that doesn't mean I want to throw $1,500 into a tonneau cover if I can make a $200 one work. I'm not just trying to throw money away. I want to do a lot to this truck, and I'm going to put a rack on it. I'm going to do a lot of stuff. I don't want to just blow money uselessly. Nobody wants to do that. So I want to show you the bolts that hold in the tie downs are held in with the Loctite, the red Loctite, which I'm certain the blue is temporary. The red is supposed to be permanent on bolts that you really don't intend to take out. But you can see, I'm gonna try to zoom in on that. So you can see all that pink dust that's coming out of those holes. That's all, they gooped a ton of that red Loctite on there, which, to be honest, I think that's great because it prevents rust. It's gonna keep that thing in there. It's never gonna come loose. And you can put some serious torque on these things when you're tying stuff down. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. I am saying they are difficult to get out without a question. So there you go. Okay, so I ended up using a T40, if you can see that, T40 Torx bit for these bolts, and this is the perfect size. It fits in there and was able to get it out. You see a little bit of that pink or the red Loctite on there. The rest was on these threads in here, and it all got stripped off when I took it out. But that's what it's for, so it did its job. I'm happy with it. Now I'm good to start putting this thing in permanently. So I can go all the way up to the rear wall here, and I want to put the tailgate up to see how it lines up with that. So there's a piece of weather stripping on here, but it's just a single like little flap. It's not like one of those half circle things. So what I'll probably do is take this off and put a bigger chunk of weather stripping on here to keep water, because I can see a gap right in here, and if water gets in, it's going to get all over it. I don't want to pull it too much further back. And then the other important thing that I wanted to make sure was that this T-slot is right over the bed rail. So that is, I mean, it's on the edge. I think on the newer ones, it's probably out maybe a ¼ inch more, so it's not like it's way over, but this should be good enough for anything I'm gonna mount on here. I'm just gonna do a rack with a smaller rooftop tent, so maybe 120, 150 pounds total. This thing says it can handle 200 dynamic, which means when you're out moving around, so that should be good. And I'll check that, but that's what I remember reading. A lot of them are 200 to 300 dynamic, and that's as far as it goes. So it takes up a chunk of the back of your truck. So you're gonna lose 12 inches of the back of your truck here, which is definitely a bummer. And then you lose 11 inches down here. So the whole front end of the bed of your truck is used up just to hold this tonneau cover. There are other options out there. So it's important that you're within, I believe it said, 1/8 of an inch distance from here to there and here to there. Otherwise it gets cattywampus and it won't roll smooth. But it is rolling just fine. So the way these things are supposed to go, it's got those little grooves in here, you can see, and then there are actually grooves in this bed rail here that these are going to grab onto to hold it down. So it's not like you could pry this thing up and then these go against the side of the bed just to hold it a little more securely. But the issue I'm going to have is that this, when it holds on, is going to make it so this doesn't fit below the bed rail. So I'm going to have to figure out how to get around that, and I haven't really, well, I definitely haven't figured that out. And then this is adjustable. You can loosen those two screws, and then this thing can move up and down to grab the inside of the bed rail. There's a hole in the metal part of the bed rail behind this plastic right here. So I'm going to drill through the plastic, and then if I can make this thing, the bolt fit through that hole, I mean, that's pretty perfect. Have to go a little bigger, so I'm going to go with the biggest drill bit I have and just hope I don't hose this up. So there's the hole that I just drilled. Why is this so crappy? Anyway, drill the hole. There's a hole in the metal too, so it's going to fit. Maybe when I get to the passenger side and the light's better, you'll be able, or the driver's side and the light's better, because the sun is super bright right now. Makes this very, very difficult. All right, so I figured out what I need to do. Inside the bed rail, it comes down too far, so this can't go up high enough for the bolt to go in. So I'm just gonna have to shave some of this across. Since this part was hitting the top of the bed rail, I just cut it off. And this is just acting as a big, rectangular nut for the bolt to go through. And then I have a rubber washer that's the entire size of this. I just cut the bottom off and it fits, so it's rubber between the metal bed rail and this. I'll show you that when I get in there. But rubber bendy washers. This is gonna protect the bed rail. So what I'm gonna do is just cut. When you look at this, so this goes on the bed rail comes all the way down to here, the bolt goes through there, and this is gonna sit right, that's why we had to cut it, so this flat part's on there so it can go through and up against the bed rail. So I'll show you once I actually install the one on the driver's side, but for now, I'm just gonna keep cutting. Bolt through there, this goes on there. And the reason this thing is on here is this tightens in and pushes on there, so when you pull on this, you don't actually bend the bracket down. So if you start tightening here, it's on a pinch point up here and down here, so the whole bracket's gonna twist into the bottom of the bed and it'll pull this thing down. So you gotta tighten this one. This is not to hold it back and forth, this is to hold this bracket from buckling in. So right now, I'm going to get this thing up against the inside of the bed rail. Now I'm gonna put these things on here and start tightening, and as I tighten, I'm going to be paying attention to whether or not this thing starts to rotate, and this thing's still moving around a little bit. It'll get better once it's tight. All right, I think we're good. One thing you don't want to do is tighten too much, because you're pushing on the plastic part of the bed rail with this, not the metal part. That's what these little white things are pushing on. So if we tighten it too much, you're just going to bend that plastic thing too much, and that's not going to do you any good. And then in there, you'll see that there is a second bolt on this, or a second nut on this bolt. Once you get it where you want it, like right now on the one I have in there, this bolt's way down here. So once I have it, you tighten it all the way up there, and then once you lock these two things together, if you do it tight enough, you can't move the bolt anymore, because you're basically pushing these together so the threads are getting pushed in opposite directions, so everything's locked in place. But you need an open-ended wrench to do that, so that's what I got. So now that we've got the rear locked in place, I want to give it one more test, closing it all the way, because we're really locking it in now, and I'm hoping I didn't move it like an idiot and just tighten everything down. So I think it's looking pretty good. All I have to do now is secure the front. Now that I know how to do it and I've already cut the stuff, it should be pretty easy. And it even says Ford, so you know it's for Fords. All right, I'm in here reinstalling this very last inside clip up by the canister, which is here. So I did drill through the bed rail here. There was a hole, it wasn't quite big enough for that that bolt that's going through. So I drilled it just a little bit bigger, and I put the back side of the mounting kit that I cut up above it with that rubber washer, and I'm just tightening it all down, and it is super secure. It's definitely, the rails are not moving at all. So just gonna finish tightening it, and then should be done. Just gonna, and also put the weather strip on. I used the stock mounts, but I had to cut the bracket that goes on the inside. I showed that earlier, and it just clamps to the bed rail here. You've got these two guys pressing on the plastic, holding it at the right distance out. So that's not ideal, but that's the same way it is on the other one. And it's definitely not going anywhere. I mean, it is in there. The wind's not gonna take it off. Some dude that's just trying to wrench on it with his hands isn't gonna take it off. If he has tools, he's gonna rip it apart. But that's just the nature of tonneau covers. Like if someone wants to get in, they're gonna get in. And then on the fronts, I did have to drill an existing hole out a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna go get some automotive, like rust-proof etching paint or whatever, take those out, put the paint in there, and then put it back on. I might even just go in from the inside and just put a bunch of paint on it with the brackets in there. So it's, what I don't want to do is paint it and then I put the bolt right back through and that strips the paint off. So maybe I'll just paint around the outsides just to get it a nice seal. But anyway, I'm really happy with it for $200. I mean, it fits, it takes a little modification and a little doing, but it definitely secures everything. I'm gonna get a different piece of weather stripping for the strip that goes against the tailgate. But other than that, so when you do close it all the way back, there's a piece of weather stripping there, but it doesn't do a whole lot. It's just a single little strip, not anything crazy. I wanna get one of those rounded ones, just to go to Home Depot and get it. And then that'll keep this a little more watertight. And then I'm gonna hook up the drains as well. So I just gotta get that piece of tubing. I'm gonna take it off, take it to Home Depot with me, get some new pieces and put it on there. But anyway, this is awesome for $200. I could not be happier. And it has these T-rails. Initially, I wasn't too sure I wanted to mount my stuff to the T-rails, but the more I leave this on here, it is sturdy. I mean, I think putting something on here is gonna be totally fine. I'm not putting, you know, several hundred. It'll be like 120 pounds of roof rack, and it'll be evenly distributed. The foot packs from Yakima are like 3 things that go in here, and it holds an entire foot thing back here, and then 3 up here, and the rail goes all the way up here. So I think I'm also going to create a little like portable shower thing just out of PVC and just mount it across the back here, because this doesn't roll up on top, so I can have it here and still be able to see out like from here back on the rear view mirror. So anyway, super excited about this. Looks really good, has the rails, and it only cost me $200. So I got my holes drilled through those little pieces of plastic. I got my drains hooked up. This one has to go kind of out to the left because there's this piece of like a cotton or some sort of weird fabric between the bed and the cab in front of the gas tank that's right here. And it's open to the left, so I just put about 6 inches of hose off to the left there, so that'll drain, and then this one just goes straight in because it's open there. So that's the drains. New hose costs about $6. You can actually see that piece of cotton, and then there's the drain hose going out to the side, and then the other side is just going straight back. Don't need to show you that. Actually, I will just because. And then on the passenger side, there's the drain hose coming out. It's actually sticking a little far, so I might pull it back just a touch. There we go.
It's over!